Good day, everybody, and once again, it is me, the J to the E to the double F free. This is Jeffrey Harris, and you're listening to the 411 Wrestling Interviews podcast. We have a brand new interview for you here today. It is OVW's Rush Division Champion. His name is Dimes. Dimes is a former OVW Heavyweight Champion, TV Champion, 2019 Nightmare Cup winner. He is the current Rush Division Champion, and we have an exclusive one-on-one interview for you to check out here today. So stay tuned. We are about to start that interview right now. Thank you for listening. This is Jeffrey Harris on the 411 Wrestling Interviews podcast. All right, good day, everybody. This is Jeffrey Harris, and we are back today for the 411 Wrestling Interviews podcast. For today's interview, we have the OVW wrestler, the former heavyweight champion, TV champion, 2019 Nightmare Cup winner, and the current Rush Division champion. He is the one and only Dimes. Dimes, thank you very much for joining us. How are things going for you right now?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on first. But things for me are going. They could go better, but they could be worse. The whole coronavirus.
Yep.
Kind of shocks people. I think. A few months ago, everything just got shut down. But I actually live across the river in Indiana, so my gym has been open for a little bit. So at least I can, go and do that. But I'm certainly looking forward to being able to go back and wrestle eventually, whenever that is.
So, what is it like right now when, we're in a pandemic? Some wrestling is still going on, but OVW, you're shut down at the moment. You're not able to have shows. What is it like, being a pro wrestler and not being able to wrestle and do what you love?
It's definitely aggravating. There's that itch of wanting to do it. And I do have people that I train with that we do have a ring in Indiana, but it's not, regulated or anything like that. So, being able to wrestle in front of a crowd is way different than just, training with, a couple of your partners or your buddies. So, we at OVW, we've started planning, putting contingency plans for the coronavirus, letting in a certain amount of people, and now we just kind of have to hope for the state to let us wrestle again, so hopefully it's soon.
Do you have an idea of when that might happen? Do you have, projected date when you'll hopefully start running shows or your weekly TV again?
No, not right now. Our owner, Al Snow, actually just had a meeting with the state the other day and kind of laid out, hey, this is, everything that we've had in place. All of the talent and all the workers that we have at OVW have filled out a document saying, all of the different precautions that we have in place and that we have read it and, that we know that there is a plan in place to keep everybody safe. So it's really up to the state right now, but hopefully, within a month, because I know that shows are running in other states, like in Indiana, there are shows running today and tomorrow. So, hopefully the state of Kentucky can see that we are, truly a professional company and that we've put all these precautions in place to keep not only the wrestlers safe, but the fans safe as well.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, Dimes, and your journey. Well, what made you want to become a pro wrestler and start a life in pro wrestling?
Well, I had always liked pro wrestling as a kid. And, one of the first people that I remember seeing on TV was John Cena, and he's one of my favorite wrestlers still today. And I remember when I was growing up, I went to a babysitter and they would have Stone Cold and The Rock, sheets and pictures and stuff like that all over their house. So I was always into pro wrestling, and I was an amateur wrestler throughout high school. And even with that, I kind of just wanted to put on a show and entertain people. So I would try to have higher scoring matches than other people. And then I went to college and graduated from IU. And then I started working, I guess what you would say is like a normal job, and I realized that I didn't really like that, and I remembered that OVW is right across the river from where I live, so I figured it was a perfect place to train, and I started training there.
Who would you credit as your trainers and your greatest mentors for wrestling?
I would say my three big ones are Matt Capitelli. He was my first trainer in my beginner class at OVW. And then Rick Rogers, and of course Al Snow, who's our owner now. So those are the three big ones for me.
And what would you say is the origin of your Dimes? Where does Dimes come from?
Well, Dimes is just the nickname that I got in college, and it just kind of stuck. So I have been Dimes before I was a wrestler. So when it came to, coming up with like a work name, Dimes was just who I was. So it was kind of an easy transition. And when I first came in, they wanted me to, have a real name, I guess, so to speak, like a two first and last name. Dimes is just kind of like an abstract name, but I like the name Dimes. It's who I am. So, I just kind of stuck it out, and then, eventually I got to where I am today, and I would say that I'm pretty successful with the name. So.
All right. So tell me about training under Al Snow and kind of this sort of new era with OVW, with him as the owner, and talk about, I'm curious about his leadership, his poise and whatnot, and how he comes off to you.
Sure. Well, I am one of the people who was there before Al bought us out. I was there about a year, and that's when I was training under like Matt Capitelli, and then Al came in, and things have drastically changed. I would say, like the training schedules, we have all different classes. OVW is an official trade school in the state of Kentucky for sports entertainment. Al has gotten us different national TV deals. We are on U2 America every Friday. We have bigger shows, like in Louisville, we have the big entertainment area. It's called 4th Street Live, and we've been lucky enough to have 2 different shows down on 4th Street Live since Al's been there. And all the different talent that he brings in to wrestle for us, to have, different training opportunities. He's brought in like Billy Gunn, Tommy Dreamer, the Hurricane, Shane Helms, just to name a few. So, having those opportunities to learn from different people is something that I can definitely thank Al for. And, of course, he is one of the best trainers, ever. He was one of the Tough Enough trainers when the original Tough Enough show was on TV. So it is kind of cool to have that connection there to say that, hey, this guy trained, whoever, and now he's also training me. So, yeah, it's definitely been a positive having Al come in.
Does any input or advice he's ever given you about the craft come to mind? Like anything, any lesson he's imparted on you that you're going to take with you and that's going to stick with you for your whole career?
Sure. I would say the biggest thing is to just be myself and be confident in myself. One of the main things that I think younger wrestlers have is like we're out there and we're thinking too much instead of just going out there and, being yourself and, not necessarily playing an act or anything like that, just turning yourself up a little bit. So I think that that's one thing that, no matter where I go, that's something that he told me that will really help me, wherever I end up.
Yeah, the thing about wrestling, it can take a very harsh physical toll on your body. So, does the pandemic, I guess, make a case at all for either a wrestling off season, or is there sort of a benefit, even as sort of rough and as sort of bizarre as this whole pandemic is in human history, does it sort of benefit someone like you where it's giving your body time to rest up and heal a little bit, from any nagging issues?
Sure. Yeah. I can see the positives in it. I could see, like a company like WWE, you have all this talent, and instead of, making one talent work the whole year, maybe just book them for 9 months, give them 3 months off, and then in that 3 months, give other people opportunities and just kind of cycle it in and out like that. Like with the pandemic and everything, that was just kind of forced upon us. And I will say, like, training the past couple times has been really hard on me cardio-wise, which usually is never an issue. But, being in the ring, twice in the past 3 months, it's definitely very difficult. So that is, like, a negative to it. But, my body has healed up a little bit. There were little injuries, just things that hurt, not necessarily that could stop me from wrestling, but they have healed up a little bit. So that, I guess that is a positive in the whole pandemic situation.
Now, do you still try to train or practice in the ring, or is it, once shows start up again, is it going to be almost like a relearning or a whole different adjustment period?
I wouldn't say relearning. It's more just timing, stuff like that, especially with my cardio. I trained last weekend with Rip Rogers up in Indianapolis, and it was mostly just the cardio of it, and we were sort of outside. We were in a garage, but sort of outside, so it was hot too, and it's just very difficult to get back into that shape because, as much as I do a stair stepper or, a treadmill at the gym, that's not the same as all of the different body movements that are needed in a wrestling match. So just, wrestling, a 10-minute match is incredibly difficult now because of the time off. But, hopefully soon enough, I'll be able to train on a more regular basis, and I'll be back in shape soon enough.
I think you happen to have some very good chemistry with Corey Storm. How have you liked getting to work with him, and what do you think about the way you guys work together and your chemistry with each other?
Well, Corey was somebody that when he first came in, you could kind of tell how good he was. And, not to pat myself on the back too much or anything like that, but I know how good I am as well for us both being so young. So I think that, because we were both two young guys, sort of similar wrestling styles, that really allowed us to mesh. And his style is a little bit more of that indie, fast-paced style, and I am much more of like a slower, psychologically based wrestling. And I think that he has helped me in certain ways, and I have kind of helped him to say, like, hey, maybe we should do this here, do this there. So I definitely think that we have both helped each other. And, the one match that we had together, I forget how long ago it was. It was months and months before we even were a tag team. But it was a good match, I think, just, our first time. And we had never wrestled each other before or anything like that. And I would say it's one of the best OVW matches that we've had in the past couple of years.
Now, I mean, you mentioned earlier you were a big fan of John Cena, but I'm curious, are there any guys you've studied, or are there any wrestlers historically that maybe informed or inspired you personally? Maybe not so much a mimic, but, sort of informed your knowledge of wrestling and maybe inspired you a little bit?
Sure. Well, when I first really started getting into wrestling was like 2005. So some of those main guys were like Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Edge, Randy Orton, AJ Styles was a big one for me. And then, of course, like John Cena. And, a lot of those guys are still able to wrestle today, which is incredible. And I hope to be able to wrestle that long. And, get to the point where, hopefully in the next few years, I would be able to wrestle somebody like an AJ Styles, if he's still there when I eventually get to WWE.
Now, that's also another question I sort of have. Like, what are your goals in wrestling? Like, where do you want to go and perform? are you content to just taking the ride and journey and seeing where it takes you? I'm just curious how you view yourself, like, because I like that, you do have that sort of idea, going to WWE one day and facing AJ Styles. I think that's great. So I'm just curious how you view that for your career.
Sure. I mean, right now, I would like to get an opportunity at a larger company like a WWE, like an AEW. But, before that comes, I would like to build OVW as big as I possibly can. I do have eventual career goals. Like, everyone wants to wrestle at WrestleMania, right? So that's, of course, one of my goals. Just getting myself on the biggest platform possible, whether it's AEW or whether it's WWE. I would really love an opportunity to wrestle at either company. I see a lot of my peers getting opportunities at those companies, and I definitely think that I'm on their level. So I think it's just a matter of time, really. I
mean, just like that match you had with Sim Bodhi last year, I was real impressed with. I just feel like you're getting better and better each time you go out there, and I feel like you have so much potential, and you're just getting continually better. Now, is Corey Storm, is he going to take it personally that you made him hand over the Rush Division title at Hunting Grounds last March? So you're the current Rush Division champion, but you won the Three Wishes ladder match, and you got the Rush Division title as a result. Do you think Corey might want some revenge on you for that? Do you think he's going to take it personally?
Yeah, I think he did take it personally. I could tell he was a little bit upset, but, that's business, man. I mean, I didn't say that, I would use the wishes on a tag team championship. I said that I would use it on a championship. And quite frankly, I think that I'm a better face for the company than Corey Storm. I'm a better wrestler than Corey Storm. I sell more tickets than Corey Storm. So, of course, I should be the Rush Division champion. And, if he's offended by that, that's quite honestly just too bad. Right now, I'm the longest reigning champion of all time in the Rush Division. So if he wants to stop me, then he can beat me. I mean, it's simple as that, really.
Would you grant him a rematch when the time comes? Or would you grant him a match for the title?
Yeah, but he would have to earn it. As far as I'm concerned, he's at the back of the line. He has no rematch clause. I would rather see other competitors, try to get a shot at me. We have plenty of talent in the back. I don't think that everything needs to be handed to Corey Storm like it used to be. So, if he's upset by that, then he can just climb his ladder like I had to do.
Now, when you two won the Nightmare Cup, you talked about sharing possession of the cup. Who currently has possession of the Nightmare Cup?
Oh, I have it. It's in my house.
Are you just going to keep it for now?
I'll keep it until somebody beats me next year, I guess.
Okay.
Whoever my partner is.
So you're not gonna. So if Corey Storm came over to your house, say, "Hey, can I borrow the cup for the weekend?" You won't let him have it.
No. I think he could do other things with his time rather than worry about my trophies. So, maybe next year he can get a different tag team partner and take it from me that way.
Okay, sure, fair enough. Now, I guess before the pandemic, just my thought as a wrestling fan was it definitely seemed like wrestling fans were getting options. There was, OVW. You can watch OVW on YouTube. There's more wrestling, through streaming media or video on demand. I feel like the wrestling industry was sort of finally getting a handle on that. So I guess hopefully once we can sort of get back to some level of normalcy, whatever that is, do you feel like there will be, the industry will be able to sort of continue where it left off, or is it going to look a lot different from before the pandemic?
I think it will be a little bit different. And I do think that the first couple of companies that start regularly putting on shows could see a surge in viewership. you see right now, like, wrestling just isn't really the same right now, so it's hard to judge the viewership numbers and everything like that. Because even for me, I love watching wrestling, but even right now, it's just weird. Like,
totally.
Wrestlers as the fans and stuff like that, like, it's okay, but it's just not the same as 20,000 people or 1,000 people wherever you're wrestling, So I think it is important for a company like OVW to be one of the first ones back where, we can say, hey, stream us on YouTube America or on your Roku channel, or if you can watch it locally, like, please watch us locally. And we are still putting out new episodes, but they are more based off of, people's careers and, situations like that, because we aren't, allowed to wrestle and film anything yet. So we are still putting things out. But when we can actually have shows again, I definitely would expect, a surge in viewership.
I think you definitely sort of are poised, to go in that direction, just with such a talented roster and workers like yourself. Okay, so just last question for you, Dimes. If you have any other projects you'd like to share with the listeners, any social plugs, merchandising plugs you'd like to share, I wanted to give you that time to do that, so please go ahead.
Sure. My Twitter and Instagram are at Dimes Wrestling. That's DIMES Wrestling. And I am participating in a Dancing with the Stars event for charity in October. The date kept getting moved because of the coronavirus, but it is in October, and I'm raising money for a charity in my hometown of New Albany for women who suffer from addiction. So I will be selling masks for $5. Everybody has to wear a mask now because of the coronavirus. So I thought it was a good idea to sell the mask and use them for charity. I'm also accepting donations. There's a link in my Instagram and Twitter. It is the Breakaway Dancing. That's my charity. And I'm hoping that, if you don't want a mask, that's fine. If you would still donate, $5, $10, whatever. But the link is in my Twitter and Instagram. So that's at Dimes Wrestling on Twitter and Instagram, if you guys want to follow me or donate to my event.
All right, Dimes, thank you so much for your time, man. I'm looking forward to, when we can get back, get you guys back in the rotation, get new live OVW events, and just seeing more of guys like you, Corey Storm, and what have you. So you guys are doing great. So keep up the great work, and I'm looking forward to getting you guys back on TV and everything. So really appreciate the time, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Appreciate it. You've been listening to the Rush Division Champion of OVW. His name is Dimes. Stay tuned for him on OVW. You've been listening to Jeffrey Harris on the 411 Wrestling Interviews Podcast. Thank you, everybody. And that was Dimes, the Rush Division Champion of OVW. Thank you very much to Dimes for taking the time to speak with us. Remember, you can find us on the 411 Mania YouTube channel, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Stitcher, on Google Play. If you can give us a like, comment, or subscribe if you're listening to us on YouTube, I'd very much appreciate it. If you can give us a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts, I would very much appreciate that as well. But more than anything, thank you for taking the time for finding us and listening to our show. We're going to have some more great interviews coming up later this week, so please stay tuned. I'm very excited with the content we have planned. Once again, this is Jeffrey Harris, the J to the E to the double F-ree, and you've been listening to the 411 Wrestling Interviews Podcast. Thank you, everybody.